everybody, and welcome to Encounter Roleplay. My name is Will, and today we are back, and of course, as ever, we're setting up cameras, that's how we do it. And we are starting a new show today. We're doing some Dungeons and Dragons as usual, but we're not playing it, we're just talking about it. Crazy, right? And we've got a special guest on for today, as well as our cast and crew. We have Valonda back. How's it going, Valonda? Oh, I hear myself twice. Is someone listening to my stream?
I muted you, sorry buddy.
Oh, there you go. How's it going, Valonda?
Don't want to hear that twice, can't do it.
No,
I'm doing
goodness.
well. I'm good. I've had like 3 hours sleep, I've had a lot of caffeine, I'm okay.
Fantastic. And
oh, this is great.
That's how you do it.
Guess what? My audio is routing through my Oculus Rift.
Oh wow.
This is how we do Twitch, right?
Yeah, this is Twitch, I think.
Yeah, this is how interactive we are.
Right. I'm trying to stay up with the kids. Stuff works.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Really hot, really fast. Oh, man.
Wow.
As long as you don't mind me spending the next 2 hours with an Oculus Rift in my head.
No, yeah, total immersion into the stream is what we require.
Yeah.
This is the future of Dungeons and Dragons virtual reality, so I'm very excited. But yeah, we've got Sydney back today. How's it going, Sydney?
Hi, it's going so good. I finished school, my first year anyway. And I'm done.
Congratulations.
I'm a free woman. I feel like I've been released from prison, and I'm trying to like assimilate myself back into the real world. It's great. I feel amazing, and I just took a nap.
Wow,
I can't.
You
get
are
better.
living the dream. Fantastic.
Oh, now you can't hear me, can you?
I hear you, but you're kind of quiet. You're kind of
So quiet, man. So quiet.
coming through a little bit. But yeah, whilst we get through the inevitable audio problems that every stream has to have, we'll talk to you about what we're going to be talking about today, I guess. So
oh yeah, notes. I need those. Hang on.
yeah, notes are a thing. So this is going to be the first episode of our new kind of talk show roundtable, which will be talking about D&D stuff, answering questions, getting a new guest on every single week, and at the end of the show, answering your guys' questions as per the usual. So we've got some questions to ask on Mr. There we go.
Better?
Oh yeah, that's it.
Beautiful.
That's the ticket.
There's
Fantastic.
nothing like having a giant Yeti mic standing in front of you that doesn't work.
So Mike from SlyFlourish is our guest for today. How's it going, Mike?
Very well until the Oculus problem. Everything was perfectly smooth.
That's when the Oculus Nation attacked and everything changed for the stream.
That didn't help.
Yeah, fuck, damn. Well, we've
But
no one
good,
noticed.
very good.
No one noticed. It's fine. We're not doing this live, so we can edit this all out.
Yeah,
all out in post.
That's good. Can we? Yeah, we're gonna cut all this, right? Cut all this.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a. So, for those of you not familiar with Mike and SlyFlourish and your work, do you want to fill us in a little bit about what you do, Mike?
Sure. So I've been playing D&D a long time, since I don't know 80s era in the second edition days, but I didn't really get deeply back into it until the beginning of 4th edition, and decided that beyond just playing D&D, I wanted to write a website about it. So I started the website SlyFlourish, and then wrote that for a long time. And then 5th edition came out, and I started writing about that for a long time. Along the way, I wrote a few short books about dungeon mastering, including one that seems to have gravitated with people, which is The Lazy Dungeon Master. And I've been doing other things since then. Last year, I did a book called Fantastic Locations, and this year I'm doing a book called Fantastic Adventures.
Fantastic,
yeah. Because I tried mundane adventures. It didn't really take off.
Yeah, no, yeah.
People were kind of lukewarm about it. I don't know why.
Average.
So you had to do the whole rebranding thing, yeah.
I had to beef it up a little.
Awesome. So we're going to be kind of going around the table, talking about different topics, discussing and chatting throughout today. So let's kick things off. You mentioned Fantastic Adventures. So talk to us about that, and talk to us about your experiences with Kickstarter.
Oh, man.
And
D&D. I could talk all day, so feel free to just start cutting my mic.
Oh, sure. I'll just keep you muted.
Sorry, that's it. He's gone. He's gone already.
Wow.
Oh yeah, just cut it right now. Yeah. So, fantastic. Like I said, last year I did a book called Fantastic Locations, which is a book of 20 locations that you can drop into any fantasy RPG. The idea is that of all of the parts of DMing that are hard, one of the things I try to do is say, when we look at what it takes to be a dungeon master, when we look at what we need, what are the hard parts, right? What are the parts that we get stuck on? And there's a lot we can improvise. I tend to think that improvising NPCs is not terribly hard. Maybe you disagree. I don't know.
No, I agree. Yeah, NPCs I find quite easy.
Yeah, I think even combat encounters to a point, like there's a few tricks you can throw in, but for big battles you got to spend a little time, but small skirmishes are pretty easy to just do. But coming up with interesting places is hard. And so I wanted a book of places, like, I don't know where the hell anybody's going, but maybe there's a big dwarven dam, and maybe there's like weird things going on in this dwarven dam. So I wanted to have a book that people could carry around with them, that if they ever needed a place that they didn't have, they could open it up, pull out a place, and drop it into their game. And then after I was done, I said, what if we just took it like one level deeper? And what if we took some of the ideas behind the Lazy Dungeon Master, the way that the Lazy Dungeon Master kind of looks at it, the Lazy Dungeon Master looks at how to do adventures, and actually made adventures that were like that. So very modular adventures where I don't make any expectations that people are running in a particular campaign world, or that they're playing in a campaign world outside of their own. What are some adventures we could write that fit well into people's ongoing campaigns, either as side quests or as small main adventures, but not great big, huge campaigns. Like I think we've got a lot of those, right? We have a shelf full of big 6-month to year-long campaigns. What about just a bunch of 4-hour ones? And Phandelver, the starter set adventure, to me is a good model of that. Like it's really small, it's pretty easy to read. It's got 4 nice adventures that kind of take everybody from level 1 to 5. And, what would it be like to have a book of 10 more of those? So that's Fantastic Adventures. And it's done very well on Kickstarter. It's got one day left, so people can back it today or tomorrow.
Oh yeah, let's find a link for that as well.
Yeah. So I was checking that out today when we was like, oh yeah, you remember this thing? I'm like, yeah, totally, I remember. And I was checking it out, and there's like, I think like one of the questions got is like, you got 6 times the goal, and that's great. I mean, you quite often see things at Kickstarter, think, you're kind of sad that don't work, but from the things that I picked up from it, it sounds very much like I guess kind of like the drag and drop idea. So you can drag and drop and like, okay, well, I need to get level 3 to 5, but I kind of don't really have anything until I get to 5. We'll grab one of those and we'll play with that. And that's great. That's exactly the same way that I treat locations. So it's kind of, they've turned up here. Well, I'm going to grab one of those and move it on. And that tends to actually be how I write most of the world. So having like someone else do all the hard work for me. Thank you very much. Big fan. That's always great as a DM. Like, oh God, I haven't prepped anything. People are coming over. What am I going to... I've got a great idea. It's fantastic having that. It's a great resource to have out there. So
I think it's an interesting. It's a sort of an interesting spot about where publishers and designers and writers can go. Is what are those hard spots? Like rather if you ever pick up a campaign setting and it's got 5 pages about NPC stuff, and you're like I don't really need 5 pages of NPC stuff. What I really need is like that one thing, or that one detailed place. Like, so it seems like it should be the publisher's goal is to, and I think a lot of them embrace this. How do you do the hard part, right? How do you, what are the hard parts that the publisher should be doing and selling so that the life of a DM can be easier? And I don't think we always hit the nail on the head. And I'm continuing to try to circle that target and figure out what I can do to help do that.
Yeah.
Locations is one, and this is the other. And you're right. Yeah, the whole intent is like you can rip. In fact, there's a whole section in every one of these adventures that says how to customize this adventure. And the goal is like you don't have to start it where it starts. You don't have to have the NPCs in here that it has. You can replace any of these NPCs with NPCs that are that matter to the characters or that are already in your campaign. You can kind of set it wherever you want. In one place it might be set in a desert, but you could change the setting very easily to be somewhere else. And its goal is not to kind of hammer on the table and tell you how you're supposed to be playing your game. Its goal is tools to help you run your game.
Kind of like be opening out with this is all like blank template stuff. Change flavor text as you wish to suit, sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, those are always better because I always find those saying like having like 5 pages worth of notes on an NPC is like the thing I really need to know is what important information do they need to know. What do they look like if that is important? Their name, and I will change it if I can't pronounce it because I always do, and a voice, and that's it. Once I have like those things, I have a voice, I have a name that I can pronounce. That's it. I'm off. I can go. I know what they need to know, and that's once you have those key ideas, that's all you really need to run with. Everything else should be totally left up to the imagination of the DM, and partly up to the players, because I always get players coming, oh, they should have this and this and this. Like, yeah, totally, we'll do that, and we'll build them all together, and that's always more fun and more interesting.
Yeah, I like that. And I think for DMs as well, you're right. I think it does become almost like a secondhand, just to come up with random NPC on the spot after you've been playing for a while. You end up having a kind of bank of characters to sort of draw from. Locations for me is when you read fantastic settings, those are the things that you remember a lot of the time. Like, I want to do a thing a bit like Rivendell, or a thing a bit like
yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah, and I could see that being successful. It would be interesting to see, actually, if Wizards ever print more like campaign setting stuff, or just location books. They seem to be.
I think Yawning Portal's a good example of them sort of breaking the mold and getting away. But now Yawning Portals also has a whole other angle, which is classic dungeons. That people won't remember. I've got a friend who he was at my game yesterday, but doesn't play a whole lot of D&D, and he still bought that book just because he remembers those adventures when he was a kid. He just want to read them, and he was really mad because he's like, "Where's the Lich stat block? Well, you may not go buy the Monster Manual." He was kind of mad about that. I'm like, well, you don't need to reprint the Lich.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting what you said about figuring out what's hard for DMs, and what DMs find easier, I suppose. And of course, you've got like this huge tract of data from which to pull from, like Twitter, which you recently put on your blog, in which, I don't know, like nearly a million. Was it nearly a million tweets? 900,000.
Yeah, it's a million now. It was just shy of once you start trimming stuff out. It was, I think, about 750,000.
Wow.
That was some serious amount of analytics and statistics data. That was some hardcore work, man. That was proper homework work, man.
I would not, set your stock market on it. Some of the science is probably a little weak. So
don't base your business model on
right. That's the problem, and I think anybody that deals with this kind of stuff kind of knows that, like, there's a lot where you can get lost. I've had it many times where I'm working on like big piles of data like this, and I come to some huge conclusion, then I realize like I forgot to carry the two, and it totally changes the conclusion to a different direction. No, I have been looking at this data for a whole long time, though. It wasn't like a 1 hour thing. So.
Right. So I guess folks might have seen it on Twitter. I'll link the article to you guys in chat in case you're interested.
It's really good.
Yeah,
hardcore, but really good.
Yeah, if you're into analytics,
it's really nerdy.
Yeah.
But we're all nerds here. We are. I like to roll dice. We're all nerds. This is perfect. This is the kind of information I like to have.
Yeah. If you like info on the D&D community on Twitter, then this is a great breakdown to take a look into. What was the main sort of takeaways for you, do you think, Mike, in terms of the D&D community?
That's a good question. I think that, and this one I think directly relates to you. What I'm most interested in and trying to find in this whole thing is, there's a thing like, there's sometimes called like the connectors, and there's sort of who are the central points that exist between communities. So if you look at the D&D community overall, and if you look at that great big blob, in there, you see there's this giant central hub, and then there's these offshoots of these sort of weird like flower petals that come off of it, and some of the flower petals that are coming off of it are communities that aren't directly connected to the center. And you can imagine that like the Wizards of the Coast Twitter feed is directly in the center. And then there's some that go on the outside. And actually, like the Encounter Roleplay account that you have is one of those connectors, right? It's not very well displayed in this one because this one's a little over. This one has every single retweet in it. And there's a couple that are a little bit more useful where I trim down like the number of tweets a little bit and cut the retweet threshold a little bit so that you can kind of better see the communities. And one that's really interesting is that the Encounter Roleplay community has a large number of people that follow you that don't necessarily follow all of the rest of the D&D stuff. And that's those sort of connectors are really interesting. The great big, there's one of the big flower petals off the bottom of this is I think it's called the goddamn DM.
Yes.
And
I
think he's been posting like a lot of memes, right?
Yeah.
I think he had some of the top tweets of all time. I think he had the top tweet of all time, which is the old people getting chased or ignoring the bear. So that's another one where a lot of people retweet him. And the Dungeons Donald was another big Twitter account that was like a lot of people retweet him that don't have anything to do with D&D. So they're kind of that don't have anything to do with the central D&D
Right.
quote unquote community, if you're going to use that. So that the big takeaway, I think that kind of identifying those connectors is really interesting. I guess another big takeaway is that Twitter, that the D&D hashtag on Twitter is growing at 1.5% per month above the normal growth of Twitter. So that's a pretty significant amount of growth in the community. And I would say, like, when you're looking at 1 million data points like this, or whatever, 750,000 data points like this, I bet you that model fits across the board. I don't think Twitter is an anomaly compared to sales on Amazon or talk on Facebook. And 1.5% a month doesn't sound like a lot, but that's compounding every month.
Yeah, exactly.
Over the year, it's like a 50%.
If you start like figuring out the compounding interest on your mortgage, you realize how powerful it is. Less than 1%. And that's like per month. Like, holy crap, I would never pay my mortgage off. So it's a significant amount. And
and the bar chart, there's a bar chart in the article that kind of shows what that growth looks like, and the growth is pretty significant. So I think that is good. When we talk about, like, how does that feel for the hobby is growing. I mean, a lot of this probably we knew, right? We know about sort of the new superstars of D&D that are starting to come out. But what does that actually look like in math? This is what it can look like in math.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to bother to wrap the 50,000 disclaimers around this.
Of course, yeah.
That should be blatantly obvious, really, shouldn't it?
Hashtag, and there could be a lot of D&D stuff that's going on that's not D&D related. But actually, if you look at the big circle graph, that's all the stuff on the outside, because they're just not connected. Anything that is connected, like Leah's talking about.
Yeah. I found it really interesting. And I know, Sydney, you're on a community for Open Legends, that Twitter account and website and stuff like that, and only 50,000. And you were looking at that.
Oh yeah, I found it super helpful. So, like, I have this little chart that I use every single day, and it's like a chart that shows which hashtags you should use together to get the most engagement.
Interesting.
Like, this little chart I made on a Google Doc. It's not anything professional, but it's like my baby, and I need it. And
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, one of the analyses I did, sounds fancy, was what other hashtags are often used with the D&D hashtag. Yeah. And again, so I'll give you another big. So this is I think it's called the central limit theorem in statistics. But essentially, I refer to it as the bigger your data, the more boring the results. And it's essentially like eventually everything just sort of regresses to the mean. So you're not likely to see crazy, outlandish stuff. You're likely to see stuff that is very obvious if you're thinking about it at all. And the only thing is, like, sometimes our human cognitive biases will push us away from it. And then we'll go, okay, well, that's really true. But many times, and so example, if I was to say, what hashtag do you think is used most often with D&D? RPG is not far off.
Right, yeah.
And people wouldn't really be that surprised. Or Dungeons and Dragons is number 2, so so there's not a lot of like, oh my god, the number 1 hashtag.
You're mad, man.
So so when you're looking at a lot of stuff like this, you tend to see things that are obvious.
Sure.
And the only time you're going to get sort of a difference from that is if you have a cognitive bias that's sort of pushing you.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting for you as well, I think, because you don't, like, Open Legend isn't D&D, right? But it's intricately connected to it. It has to be a part of that kind of community, I guess. What did you kind of take away from that, do you think?
Yeah, I found it very useful, even though it's like centered around the D&D community. A lot of the hashtags that are ones that I could still use, and it's still, like, the data itself is still applicable, even though it's not necessarily D&D. It's still an RPG, and it's still, like, you could use hashtag fantasy, hashtag all these different hashtags that you analyze, which made me want to go redo my chart. Because, like, now I know
Tammy's homework was better than my homework.
Now I know which ones need to go together, and like, on board with the cognitive biases and stuff. That's something I've really found very prevalent in, like, all the training that I've done to do this job as a community manager. It's so much stuff. Just, like, when you hear it, you're like, God, that seems so obvious, but, like, I haven't been doing it, so I guess it wasn't. But, like, when you read it, it seems like something you should have known, but you didn't know, which is really weird.
Well, so there's an interesting one. I'll, if I can dive into politics real quickly.
Oh, no, let's go.
and then I'll pull out. So you know, I'm a Yankee, right? And we love us some guns, but it's like, you know, so
this one's from the South, so you're on board.
You know, I can't help, right? Reading the news and there's all this stuff about the NRA, and a lot of, you know, there seems to be like about 3 reasons people really like guns. One is freedom. You know, we like our gun freedom.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, right. 2 is self-protection. That's the one I'm going to talk about. And 3 is sport. So, and we definitely need AR-15s for sport. So, but I'm going to talk about the second one, because the second one is self-protection. And it's like, I was reading a website. So one of my favorite websites is 538. 538 is this big statistical website done by a guy named Nate Silver. He did a big political thing. Everyone got on his case because he had a 70-30 odds that Hillary Clinton would win, and then Trump won. And he's like, "You're wrong." And he's like, "I said 70-30, you jerks. Like, that means in 10 simulations, in 3 of them, Donald Trump won. Guess what?" So he showed a big thing about deaths in the United States, and like murder's not even on the list, right? Like, it's, you know, diabetes is number 2, but murder's not on the list. So it's like, how many people that are buying a gun for self-protection also drink sugared soda? You know, and it's like,
someone should jump in front of the diet rather than the guns, really.
Right, like, if you're actually talking about threats to your life, the sugared soda is way more threats to your life. You know? And now the other funny thing, and getting on the statistics of guns, we also like to go, oh my God, there's 36,000 deaths a year caused by guns in the United States. And one of the things that neither side likes to mention is that 20,000 of those 36,000 are suicides, right? I mean, and that's serious, but no side wants to mention it because it kind of cuts away the argument for either side. The self-protection people don't want to say, hey, we want our guns so we can kill ourselves. And no one on the other side says, well, we want to cut down the number of deaths because, you know, we like that it's a big number because we want to argue against that big number. So it's like, you know, the statistics, that's where like cognitive bias can get in. And luckily, I think in the D&D world, we tend not to see as much of that. Where, and that's where like no one really wants to say like, I don't think the RPG hashtag is that important. Yeah, you know, like, RPG like, no one really cares, right? So when we tend not to care, the statistics are really boring. Right. But when they get interesting is when they completely shake our perception of something. Am I more likely to be killed by a Coca-Cola than a fire?
Right, yeah. Oh, it's interesting when like for someone like me who's basically just kind of fallen into it, and I suspect that a lot of these things might be true with like the hashtags on Twitter. You know, I suspect, you know, I've been using hashtag RPG, you know, stuff like that for a while, but it's like, it's good to see it in math, you know, like, in fact, like, it is right, and I'm like, cool, like, I did something right, you know. That was just
right. Well, there's so talk about a bias. There's a huge bias in this whole statistic because I'm only looking at the D&D hashtag, so I really have no idea whether or not that hashtag actually, I mean, I'm pretty sure it represents D&D pretty well, but I don't know what percentage. I don't know if it's 10%. You know, a lot of people get talking about D&D and never even bothering with the hashtag.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it definitely biases people who use hashtags, for one.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's hard to say, but I mean, you know, like, well, it's 1 million tweets. We can do a lot with that.
Yeah. It's like, you know, when you look at any statistic you say, it's like you break it down as like the bias that people have, the people like looking at the way that things it can be represented, like 10% of this or the average of these people. I was like, that doesn't mean anything because the word average has 5 different meanings. This could mean absolutely anything. And does it depend? Do they take the top 10 or the bottom 10 percentiles? Like, you can't really tell very much. And it's just interesting to see, like, you know, when you're looking at all these big numbers, it's like, it's still, as you say, nearly 1 million tweets. That's like 1% of the world, give or take. You know, it's a ridiculous amount of things.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point. That's something whenever I'm doing data visualizations, I always like to keep in mind, which is it's really easy to abstract the numbers, but the stories get a lot more interesting when you look at it. And an example is lower on the page. And again, oh man, I got bugs on my website. I got to fix this article.
So, now, gosh darn it.
Yeah, look at it. Well, like I got links to the campaign settings that don't work. So there's a whole section on the campaign settings, like which campaign settings were more popular and by how much. And it just did word matching, like how many times does Curse of Strahd appear and how many times Thunder appear and blah, 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 blah. But what's interesting is when you run that over time and you can see when the spikes of a discussion started. So you can see like where the discussion of Out of the Abyss kind of started and ended. Where did Prince of the Apocalypse start and end? Where did Yawning Portal start? What about, the other ones? Now, it's also time frame biased because I don't have data that went back to like when Prince of the Apocalypse came out.
Sure.
So it's hard to see like does its spike look the same as the Curse of Strahd spike?
Yeah.
But there's still interesting stories that you can see in a visualization that shows you more data. Like I'm a big, that's why I said like I'm going to do a chart that's got every single retweet done in a year, even though I know like it's fairly legible, because if there's any outlier, you can see it.
Yeah.
It's got every single one on there. So
there's information that you can draw from visual maps that you can't from numbers or words alone.
Right.
Like you could have like someone say yes, always, sometimes, never. But if you actually see those points represented, it's far easier for some people in our brains to just literally see that. It's like, this may look like 1,001 and everyone else is like 999. But when you look at like a big portion, like, look, there's a big dot and like 999 people took this. And the one person down there says 1,001, that tells you something.
Yeah, I had this.
That anomaly tells you something.
Yeah, I had this at work where somebody was kind of, selling a big data system, and I said, well, how many records do you have? Because, well, we have 3 million records from 75 different sources, or 750 sources. I'm like, oh, wow. I said, what's the breakout of documents per source? Well, it turned out one source was 2.95 million, and the other, all the ratings. Like, so you've got, like, how many of them had less than 10? And he's like, well, like, 70. And I'm like, that's like almost all of them. Yeah, like that's one source. That's not 70 sources.
Yeah.
So a lot of people like don't want to. They even in talking, they aggregate things, and they're aggregating detail that's kind of important enough.
Yeah.
You have to be mindful of where the audience, where you're targeting, like your target audience is like, I want to make myself sound amazing. So it's 99.9% of the time this works. Like, okay, you mean one example, it worked 100% of the time. All the other ones, but they were a much smaller data files. So
that's interesting. So
you just have to keep an eye on your audience.
If I can plug one other, because there's another article on SlyFlourish that's similar to this that I actually think offers more value to most people that are into D&D, which is the results of a Dungeon Master survey that I did a few months ago. And that one, I actually put out a survey and got responses from 6,600 Dungeon Masters about the way that they run the game, about the I can link it if you want.
Yeah,
please do.
We're nerds, we like numbers. Give us numbers, dude.
So there's the link. And so this one, I asked a whole bunch of different questions about when people run their games, how long their games are, where they run them, how long they spend preparing things, whether they use campaign worlds or their own worlds or whatever, whether they use published adventures or not, and all kinds of stuff. And some of the details are a little difficult to kind of put a thumb on, but some of the bigger stuff like campaign worlds is I think pretty sound.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting, it's similar to the Twitter one, and as far as like the look at the data in there, but this one is actual responses from DMs talking about how they run their games, and it's something that has steered a lot of my thoughts about what kind of stuff publishers should be writing, and that steered me with Fantastic Adventures to say, okay, I want to make sure that this hits that 60% of DMs or 55% who use a personal campaign setting. Rather than the 38% use Forgotten Realms, 5% use another D&D world, and 2% use a non-D&D campaign world. So guess what I'm not going to write? Another non-D&D campaign world.
Right.
Because it's me and Wolfgang Bauer, and he's going to kick my ass with Midgard.
We talked about that recently.
That kind of stuff is so helpful for like community managers and stuff like that, and marketing managers. It really, really is, especially because the tools that I typically use are ones that just do not go nearly as in-depth as this goes. Like the one I typically use for hashtags, I'm sure you probably have used it too, is Hashtagify.me, where you can type in a hashtag and it'll show you the popularity of it and what hashtags that would go with it.
I have never heard of it. I'm going to look it up right now.
It's really, really useful, and like it shows you like on a nice graph, like the bigger the circle, the more popular the hashtag is. But
interesting.
It does not show you the stuff like the actual rate of engagement and stuff like that, because it just shows the popularity. But just because like a lot of people are using it doesn't mean a lot of people are like necessarily interested when other people use it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It doesn't mean it's going to lead to a lot of retweets or a lot
so
of...
what does the popularity mean when it says 57.8? What is that?
Just like,
some
like,
math.
Yeah,
I know it's a number.
Yeah.
I figured it hard out.
Basically, how often it's used in comparison to other hashtags that are also in the graph when you type it
Gotcha.
in.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. So it can't. So when anything else, I got you. So anybody else has a percentage, and any connection. So it accounts for 57% of the tweets that use things that are similar to that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah, so I guess leading on from this huge breakdown,
Nerd math stuff.
Yeah, nerd math. Is where do you see D&D being in 5 years' time? You mentioned the growth of 1% a month, plus.
So I'm gonna nail you with more statistics. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do
Bring
it.
on the stats, baby.
All right. So I'm reading a book. I mentioned Nate Silver before.
Mhm.
And who wrote a book called The Signal and the Noise. There's another pair of Israeli psychologists, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. And there's another guy. Oh, what the hell's his name? I'm going to forget it. Another guy who wrote a book. Anyway, the main point was it turns out that experts are just pretty much terrible at making predictions. We just suck at it. And if you ask, and it's true, like if you go to people who are paid millions of dollars a year and ask them where the S&P 500 is going to be, they're going to be wrong. And not only are they wrong, but their margin for error is way too narrow, right? So and it's consistent across. It's something. Damn it. Anyway, so asking me where it's going to be in 5 years, a better approach, and maybe you're doing this secretly, is you should ask.
Yes, I am.
You should ask 30 people this question, right? And then from those 30 people, take an aggregate of where are they commonly talking about where it's going to be, and what's the commonality that we're all agreeing on, and that's probably more likely. It turns out if you take these group of expert opinions, and then do the average of it. Talk about average, right? Take the average of that. You're going to be more likely to be closer to what it actually is than if you ask one person and expect that they actually know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah,
it's always about data points. The more you have, the more information you can extract from that. For example, you could go to me and I will give you one opinion. In 5 years, D&D is going to be sitting at the bottom of a hole because it's awful. But if you talk to 1 million people, you're going to get more data points. You can't look at one person and go, this is what's going to happen, because you just don't have enough points. It's like saying today it rained, therefore tomorrow it's going to rain. That gives you no information. You need more to be able to make that kind of proper statement. And
I tell you what, Mike, if you give me your opinion,
I'll still answer your question.
I have I've got 7 other guests lined up, and at the end of the season,
ask everyone.
We can take
write down their answers, and then do a big word graph of where their words overlap.
I'm good.
Buzzwords. We're looking for buzzwords.
Yeah, look for the keywords.
And I'll tell you another really boring answer, which is most likely if you want to see where something is in the future, you look at where it was in the past and you draw a line and you just keep following that line.
I want something sensationalist, Mike. Tell me that D&D will.
So that's what everybody's like. VR, man. Let me show you. I'm in the future. I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons.
This is the quote that I'm looking for the papers.
We need a soundbite.
A soundbite, yeah.
I almost hurt myself.
SlyFlourish says in 5 years we're going to explode into VR.
Yeah, we're never right.
We will be in space.
In the system. And,
we've just heard that. That's the soundbite.
Philip Tetlock was the guy I was trying to remember. He wrote a book called Expert Political Judgment. He's the one that actually did the research on this, where he went to both political. These are people who are hired. They do nothing else in their life but figure out where politics and finance is going to be, and they suck. Answer, right? So there's no I don't know if you've ever heard of the wisdom of the crowds. You heard this term before. There's actual science that says if you get a whole bunch of people to kind of predict what something is, a show called Planet Money did it for cows. They had a big picture of a cow and they said, guess how much this cow weighs? And they got 1,000 answers, and then they took the median answer, and the median answer was within a pound, right?
Whoa.
Yeah, and
that's
awesome. You get enough people and you get this nice beautiful
a bell curve.
And right at the top of the bell curve is usually exactly where it should be. And even the guy who wrote the book and did the original science still thinks it's going to fall apart one day, and it never has. So anyway, okay, so where do I think D&D is going to be in 5 years? I think it's safe to say that there will probably be about 3 books a year that come out. I think we're so I'm gonna go a couple years. Well, okay, so there's definitely things I don't know about, so I'm not breaking any sort of official thing here. I would guess that we're going to see some kind of book with a bunch of player option stuff in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, again, I'm going to say boring stuff because I don't, I
Oh,
think we
that's
can all
exciting,
guess
though.
that. But like we've all been watching the stuff coming out on UA on the unearth.com.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of player stuff in there. I don't think we're going to. I think that the kind of the regress to the way D&D was in the 80s has been really working for Wizards, and I think they're going to stick to that. So I don't think we're going to see, like, 4th edition was their attempt to really kind of break out of the mold.
Right.
You're going to piss people off by talking about, well, it's MMO-like. For some people who are playing MMOs, that's not such a bad thing.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people
It's more like a gateway drug. If you came into 4 from having played
played
MMOs, everything is an ability.
Yeah, you look at Mike Krahulik at Penny Arcade, and he was, his whole thing was like, I don't want to play crusty old D&D. I like card games and I like MMOs. And 4th was what brought him in because he's like, I love that it's got cards. I love that power cards are there, and I love, and that's how he kind of got into it. So I think, we give it a hard time, and a lot of the, crusty old folk like myself give it a hard time because it's like broke away from D&D, and
yeah.
I don't want those MMO players playing my D&D. But Wizards did kind of regress and say, okay, let's look at what, really made a lot of sense for D&D over the years, and let's make something that's closer to that. And they did, and 1.5% growth per month is pretty good. So I think that's
pretty telling.
Yeah, I think that, my feeling is that they hit the nail on the head. I think they are. I wouldn't expect that they're going to go crazy. I think that we will. So there's a new president of Wizards of the Coast, who's a former Microsoft guy.
Yeah, I remember this article. Yeah, an article on that some time ago now.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Wizard, beyond being tied to the books, which is what we spend most of our time thinking, or what I spend most of my time thinking, is the brand. And to take the brand, it wouldn't be surprising if we see somebody license a VR game or a Pokemon Go style mobile augmented reality D&D game kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would bet that they're not going to be that great. Because a lot of times when you buy a license, something like that, the license, you're kind of working off of something else. And if you look at the video game D&D stuff that's had the biggest hit, it's, hey, let's redo Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, remaster.
It's like, hey, I bought it. I played it again. I loved it.
Yeah.
So it seems like, well, let's, what worked in the past, let's just do that
We're
again.
living in the age of the remaster, really, aren't we?
I know,
mean,
right.
Everything's
Absolutely.
remastered.
I just bought Planescape. I haven't really played it.
Planescape redone.
Playing the Mario
Tales from the Yawning Portal, in a way, you could see that as a remaster.
Well, and Tales is such a smart way to go because they are the only ones who can do that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I guess we could do things on DM's Guild to do like Tomb of Horrors again, but Tomb of Horrors is their module, right?
Yeah.
And the rest of us can go off and make all new things. I was listening to the podcast where Green Ronin is talking about the new Critical Role campaign setting that they're making.
Mm-hmm.
Well, D&D doesn't need to make a new campaign setting because they've got, all they have to do is take Strahd. So what are the other ones? Now they're kind of running out of their top classic adventures, I think. I think eventually, they're not gonna be able to do that forever. But I bet you every couple of years we might see another.
It's also a really nice throwback because the people who have been playing it for absolutely ages, they do remember things like Ravenloft and Strahd, Dark Sun, which I'll be freaking excited to see come out. I mean, they've got Dark Sun.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. And they're probably hanging on to that,
I can see that being much further down the line because it was it wasn't exactly in
Dragonlance.
It's in a very different setting, very different world to D&D, but it was their kind of baby. But they've got so much history to go through that they can go, look, we can go back here and go, let's revisit this and do this right, or we'll learn from this, or we've got new things to add in which is slightly different. It's really nice for people who've been playing for a long time to go, hey, this is actually available for me to play in the system that I'm playing now, and it's a really nice throwback and a real kind of like not really like fan service so much, but it's kind of like, why get rid of the old stuff which was really cool? We just need to put update it, bring it into the modern age, and then people get to play that again, and new players who haven't played be like, this is really new and really cool, where did this come from? And that can then lead them back to the original stuff. So it's a good model.
Yeah, it's working for. I mean, it's funny because it's such a conservative model, right? It's like we really be real careful about what we do. The 2-year play test for the main rules, and all of Numenera came out from the time Monty Cook left to before 5e came out. He did an entire other RPG. So, and same with 13th Age, right? And these are fantastic RPGs. I saw that now, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love Numenera. I mean,
Yeah, it's great. And so why would they start to try to fork off into these other things when they've got their core sort of group going? It'll be interesting. You bring up Dark Sun. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Again, their conservative nature seems to be tight enough that they're like, we don't really, and they keep doubling down on the realms, and in some cases it's pretty like
I agree.
I mean, the Tales of the Yawning Portal, it's great, and they obviously did not mod the adventures to fit in the realms. But they kind of, they definitely put words in the book to try to help.
Yeah, they had suggestions.
I dropped White Plume Mountain in the middle of the Forgotten Realms for my games, both my games, but like Strahd, like the whole tie to the Forgotten Realms in Strahd was so ham-fisted, and it's like why I eventually just threw it out. I'm like, don't even, because like everyone has backstories to stuff going on in the realms.
Right,
like, oh, you're never gonna see it. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's great that you for Waterdeep. It ain't gonna matter.
Yeah.
So, so it'd be interesting in what they do with Dragonlance. Will they do like a reversion of those original Dragonlance mods? Will they go to some of the other Greyhawk, mods? Probably not, because they take a lot of Greyhawk stuff and threw it in the realms. Am I answering your 5-year question to your satisfaction?
We're getting there.
You want to talk about Philip Tetlock and political judgment some more?
Well, like the reason,
As long as you can back it up with numbers.
the reason what they're doing right now is so successful, in my opinion. I mean, like, disclaimer, I don't know, but I mean, this is what I think. There's absolutely a spectrum of engagement within fans. And at the end of the spectrum, with the most engaged fan, the reason they are so engaged and the reason they are so passionate about it is because usually they have like a familial tie. So like it's what their dad taught them. It's what they played with their brother or something like that. And a lot of that is what is the old modules and old campaign settings and stuff like that. So when they revamp it, not only are they playing to that like your most engaged fan, that is the method you need to use to get them engaged. It's also, a lot of times fans are scared to try things and talk about things that they don't really know about.
Mm-hmm.
And so like giving them something that they already know something about is a lot less scary, and it means that a lot of people will come out on social media and talk about it because they're not scared of being told that they're wrong because they know about it already.
Yeah.
So it's really, really engaging to people because they know it already and they're not scared to look stupid.
There must be something in buying habits of people, because you see it with like movies and everything that gets remastered these days. If you know something was good once before, then you're likely to buy it again, I guess. Yeah, there must be.
Oh yeah, right, sure. Because we're all doing that analysis in our head.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the brand the brand thing gets stuck in your head. Like people will buy, for example, Dr. Pepper over buying like the kind of like store-bought stuff. It could be like £1 cheaper, and it's essentially the same stuff. But because we know that this is the brand, that's what we're going to go for. It worked once. It works again. I think it's kind of like the age-old thing of like I ate that berry and didn't die, so I'm going to eat that berry again. I'm going to know for sure that that's fine. So
that was a good fucking berry. Yeah,
that's a damn good berry, son.
Yeah. I mean,
you bring up another good point about sort of how to break past the grognard. There's sort of the grognard wall, right? Which is like people who like the idea, and this is kind of a problem in our hobby. I'm sure I'm probably way overestimating, as like the cis white guy. I'm probably way lowering the difficulty in this. That the grognard wall of I like this hobby, and I kind of like that I'm the only one who likes this hobby,
right?
And I don't like other people who like this hobby, and I don't like all the new people getting involved in this hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is like, oh, what, you don't know about the demon statue at the end of the wall and what happens if you stick your hand in its mouth? Oh, you're so dumb.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
It's like, I think because like way back when, I think I had I think it might have been Chris Hardwick and Will that were waiting there talking about it. They were saying the idea of like back in today, you had to work harder to find things. We now have the internet, so everything's really freely available. And before, it's like, this is like a secret little club that you belong to. When you belong to it and have a secret, you're always like, this is excellent. This is mine, and I will hold it. Whereas I think now, because we've got the internet, we have so many things like Twitch has popped up massively. I mean, check out Will, your channel after a friggin' year. It's ridiculous. And they're like, checking out Twitter, that's now just exploded massively. And, you have things like Roll20, which is blowing up, and, have the old forums and Warhorn and stuff like that. It's like, because of the internet, we can now, everyone access it. And I don't ever think it's a bad thing that you get people coming in who would never have seen it before, going, "Oh, hi, how's it going over here?" Because you just bring people into the hobby, and that's never going to be a bad thing for a hobby. But yeah, you do meet a lot of people who are like, "I know about this back from the day, so clearly I'm more important than you."
I mean,
those people are definitely phasing out. They're still here, but they're definitely phasing out because it's like having new blood in... They're dying off. Screw you guys. But you know,
too much coke.
It's new blood. It's, you know, apart from that, it's players. Even in my everyday life, I'm very lucky. My group is 8 people, but finding those people, even like 5 years ago, would have been a bloody nightmare. So I'd never been able to play it. If it wasn't the internet, I would have found half the people that I know now. Right. So I think kind of like there's that kind of like hoarding of this is my secret, and now it's like, but I want to play with people. Yeah, I'm gonna have to let them in. So
well, and that's another one. We were talking about those cognitive biases before, and I think it's really there. I think even the best-hearted people, I'm sure I've done it, where like we like to be sort of specialists in our little hobby, and we end up alienating people because we're not willing to sort of step away from how cool we are and really try to help.
I see.
And I think it's probably a little bit of that is in all of us, right? And understanding that it's there and figuring out how to like identify it before we say something stupid, and go the extra mile to try to make people feel welcome. It's tricky.
Yeah, my housemate, I've got my housemate and my other half. I will call him Roger. People who know me who this is. He will not play with new players. He will not play with new DMs because he's like, no, I don't want to spend time teaching people how to get into this hobby. I just want to play, and I know everything I need to know about this setting. Yada yada yada. To be fair, he is the brain box. He knows frigging everything. I'm not going to dispute him on that. I mean, he's the man when it comes to this, is Roger. But he won't spend time helping new people get into the hobby, and that's a real shame because his knowledge is so vast. It's like if you just opened your mouth for a little bit, Roger, people would actually be interested in talking to you about it.
And there's another side to this too, which is how much we can learn from new people.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And I wrote so Kobold Press just put out a book, and one of the articles, I think what was it called? Guide to Game Mastering, Kobold Press Guide to Game Mastering. And I was lucky enough that they asked me to write an article for it, and it was about advice for longtime DMs. And a big part of it was, get out there and look at what the kids are doing these days. Like go and sit and watch people who are new. I had a guy at a game yesterday who had never played D&D before, and it's very interesting because you kind of like, well, does he know what a fighter is? Yeah, he knows what a fighter is. Like he's been playing video games for 20 years, right? He knows all the stuff about D&D. He just didn't know D&D. So that was a lot of fun, and the creativity that he brought of jumping out of a window as a druid but landing on the guy as a bear was pretty badass, right? And was something where even the old time players who have been playing for 20 years, like were laughing and throwing their hands up. So
I also think like when you tend to have a group of people and you've been playing together for a very long time, you kind of begin to pick each other's habits, and that kind of random spontaneity is just like, wow, this is like a proper fresh breath there. I mean, I ran a game a little while ago. It was a complete one shot. Nobody had any pressures about it. I mean, we all come from the world of creativity, and they were like, no, we're not going to stream this game. This is going to be for us. And it ended up being that this new player, he'd never played before. He'd never had any concept on how to do D&D characters, anything like that. And he came back with, I think she has a peanut allergy, because it throws back to something way back when. And they destroyed her with a peanut allergy. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And it was so refreshing to have someone who'd never played that completely outside the box. And it was wonderful. It was really great.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. I think an interesting thing about the 5 years as well is not necessarily just where the books are going to be at and what the kind of state of publication is going to be at, but like you say, these online tools that we see, which I'm very interested in, being on Twitch. With D&D Beyond came out recently. I don't know if you got a chance to check that out much, mate.
Yep, I did.
What were your thoughts out of interest?
I've been using an app on my phone called Lion's Den. Okay. So it's cool, it's great, and good on them. I think that making it web-based exclusively hurts them because there's a lot of times I'm at gaming conventions with no internet access, and B, the speed, it's a little slower, and when you have a native app that has all the data sitting on your phone, it's really, really fast. And Lion's Den is really, really fast. I would rather that they figure out how to way to license things like Lion's Den so that you get more than just the SRD material. Yeah, I know you can actually get more than the SRD material. Yeah. So for just those of us that are, law-abiding citizens who stick to the SRD, I think that it hurts them to not have a native one. And it would be nice if they had some way of saying, like, yeah, we have a web-based one. You can use a web-based one. We also have an app, and we can feed the same data that's in the web-based one to the app. I think that would be a little bit fast. The speed is really my only concern. The rest of it's great.
Okay, yeah. The devs at D&D Beyond, some of the people from Curse, the lead product guy at Curse, they were in our chat, and I come by every now and again. We're using Beyond to answer a couple of questions. I believe there is another Dragon article about it as well. That there will be offline support, which I'm interested to see about.
Yeah.
Thanks for the link, Raddy. But I know what you mean. It was a bit slow. I attributed that to like first week software.
Well,
I don't know if that was a thing.
It was fine for a website.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
the speed was fine, but like I'm still hitting data over the web. And it's a lot different when I've got a native app with local data.
Yeah, absolutely. My main concern was like price, and it remains.
Yeah,
the main.
That's a big question, and I don't think have they answered any of that.
I was told that I'd be pleasantly surprised by one of the devs, and then I read
really free.
Yeah,
I'll be pleasantly surprised with free.
And then
£4.20.
And then I read some Reddit articles in which they talked about it, and it seems like there's monthly subscription base for extra tools, so you kind of unlock content and character sheets and that sort of stuff, and then you can buy packs of content. I believe. I think there were kind of two payment models. I don't know. I mean, it's like I pay for things twice already. A book and Roll20, and now I'll be D&D Beyond.
Yeah, well, So and then I think there's some of us where I all pretty much outside of my job every waking hour is thinking about D&D stuff, and I'm lucky. My wife is a big D&D nerd too, so we will spend entire walks with our dog just talking about D&D stuff, like every day, and so for me, like, dropping another couple bucks on something is not a big deal. Like, I look at it, but there's a lot of people who are like, and I can understand it, right? Like Roll20. The fact that the modules on Roll20 actually cost more than the paper copy. They have a real hard time with that. And you can understand why. But you also see, like, the other side, though, is they're getting the full mod. Like, the fact that it's in paper in a book is really not the hard part. The hard part is making the thing.
Yeah, and I get the argument as well that, like, if a book is $30, then you shouldn't necessarily have to pay $30 for online tools when you've already got it, Like,
yeah, right. I know. I get their desire to, why do I have to buy the same module twice?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that could be an issue here. It never seems like the pricing for a tool like this has ever been exactly where parties want it. Both the people who want it. And I'll tell you, as kind of publishing my own stuff on Kickstarter, I definitely see how the money, the thought is that the physical book, that you're paying for the paper and you're paying for the cardboard, you're paying for the glue, and that stuff is so cheap compared to the cost to make the, to make the things in the inside that, it's no wonder that the digital copy and the paper copy are really not far off. I've now seen that on the other angle too, a lot.
I was going to ask, we're bringing a module to Kickstarter in summer. Do you have any kind of advice for, first time Kickstarter
I told you my thing about advice being bullshit.
The whole proviso of the show is that
you're going to ask me and 30 other Kickstarter people and do the median of the answers. Right?
At the beginning of the show, I edit in this thing which says everything that Mike says is shit. Just so you guys.
That's fair. That's totally fair. So a couple of interesting things, I think. I'll share experiences more than I will give advice. How will that be?
Sure,
So one thing is that doing the math for paper copies is really hard to do. And the reason why is that depending on how much you charge for paper copies, you are either charging too much or too little, and it's rare to hit the nail on the head. And you can actually get yourself in a situation where if too many people back the paper copy instead of the PDF copy, you will actually make significantly less money and could not, end up not being able to make the thing you're trying to make. And my way around it, which is not an ideal way at all, was to offer reward tiers that let people buy the paper copy at cost from a print-on-demand publisher.
Okay.
And the problem with it is that's really confusing. And a lot of times people are, even when they back it, are still expecting that they're going to have a book shipped to their door and not pay anything else. Even if you have 30 disclaimers all over the thing saying, by the way, your you're buying the option to be able to buy the print-on-demand ones at cost and buy any number of them at cost and buy whichever ones you want at cost, but you're still going to have to pay for that cost. And that's not a great way to do it. But it's the only way you can do it if you don't know how much it's actually going to cost to make a print copy.
You're right.
That's that was one hard thing that took me, I think, three Kickstarters to figure out, and I still don't think I have an ideal one. Another one.
I think it's always going to be like one of those really difficult things, though, with the paper and the PDF stuff. Is that, as you say, people don't understand how much it costs to print. I mean, we looked into this ourselves. I mean, if you want to make something small, it's a little bit cheaper. If you want to make something bigger in a hardback, that's again more expensive. And it's just, people don't quite understand that the cost of making something is in literally all the hours you spend, because it could take them, like video games, for example. I'm not going to go into books because I don't know how long it takes to me. I've not done one. I'm still doing it. It's, you could play a game for 40 hours. You bet your ass it's going to be at least 20 times longer than that to have even sat down and thought of the idea and hammered out all the details. And that's all that you're actually paying for. So when someone says, let's do $20 for PDF, and it's like, a 50-page booklet, so that's probably actually, you're not probably making that much on that. Mm-hmm. It's a big cost, and having like hard versus like the soft copies, the soft copies are infinitely more usable. If you ruin your book, that's it, that's screwed, that's gone, and you have to go buy another one anyway, whereas the PDFs you can store, save, place anywhere, and you can use them all over the place. And I think that's kind of where most people are going towards, apart from say conventions where you have no internet. It's a pain in the ass. But
there was a cyberpunk adventure I wrote for Fate called Aeon Wave. That was my first Kickstarter. It's sort of my Kickstarter experiment. And I originally said, I'm not going to make a paper copy. It's going to be PDF only. And you just got me to get a PDF. And even then I broke down, and eventually people were like, we want paper so bad. I'm like, all right, I'll figure out a way to do paper. and we did. That's why I ended up saying basically anybody that bought the top end PDF copy can buy a print on demand copy for the cost of printing. And that's when I figured that out. And then I did it again for Fantastic Adventures or Fantastic Locations, and that worked well. And the product is great. Like, the book is as good as any of the books you'd buy, on the store. I mean, the quality of the print and everything like that. And now, and I'm doing the same thing with Fantastic Adventures. So it can be done, but it's tricky, and getting the math right up front so that you know that, like, well, what if you want to make sure there's enough of a profit margin on the print copy to cover the fact that they might all buy that and not the PDF version.
Sure.
Managing the stretch goals is another big one. In my case, I did not know how much I was going to receive. So with Fantastic Locations, I went a little overboard with stretch goals, and I delivered all of them, but it was a lot of extra work. And things like, whenever I look at it, say like, oh, well, I'll just make more adventures, So for Fantastic Locations, I said, I will start with 15 locations, and if we get a certain thing, I'll get 20. But, adding 5 extra locations increases the cost of everything by 33%, right? Like, all of the art, all the editing, all of the design work, all of that gets increased by a lot when you add extra stuff. So, like, with Fantastic Adventures, I said, it's going to be 10. It's only ever going to be 10. There are no stretch goals that take it to 15. But we'll make those 10 better and better and better, right? We'll start off, they're just going to be written adventures with a black and white map. Now we'll add color art. Now we'll add color maps, and then expanding from there. The desire during a Kickstarter for me, especially for a successful one, is keep coming up with more stretch goals, or they're going to go away.
Right.
And no, they don't go away. And I would rather make sure I'm going to deliver what I say I'm going to deliver than offer a ton of stretch goals that make the whole project more risky.
It's having that
was
like
hard.
Credibility. Let's say for yourself, you've done like 3 successful Kickstarters. Like, having Kickstarters that are successful and looking back on somebody's profile saying this was met and delivered, this was met and delivered, this was exceeded and delivered, is more important for me if I'm going to back a Kickstarter than someone who's got like, if we get a stretch goal of 1 million, we'll do this, and then they don't deliver it. I'm like,
everybody gets a
screw
car.
that. Exactly. It's like, screw that. I mean, it's
and a Coke.
No, Diet Coke, because then it won't be diabetes.
Oh shit. Well, okay, cool.
Don't you oppress my Coke? I like my Cokes.
Freedom.
Freedom for Cokes. So there were 2 other two other pieces of two other experiences that I had, money not being the issue. So one of them is the misconception that money solves the problem, right? That, if only I had $50,000, I'd easily be able to make this thing so much. Well, who are you going to call, right? Like, who's going to take your money to make this thing awesome? Because it's probably you, right? Guess what? It's still not enough to quit your job.
Yeah.
So, like the expectation that like money will solve the problem, well, it might not. And the hard work is hard work, regardless of whether there's money behind it.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why like I crossed my last stretch goal at 12,000, and everyone's like, "Well, you got 24. Where's the other stretch goals?" And you're like, they're all there. That's the 12. Like anything else is, the money's not the issue. The money.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a big one. Is like hard work is hard work, even if you've got a lot of people that love it and a lot of people that are willing to back it. That was a big one. I think a big kind of experience that I got. I can't remember I'll remember it.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I was just saying in chat, if you guys have questions as well for Mike or myself, Valonda, Sydney, then throw them in chat, put them at Encounter Roleplay, and then they'll show up nice and easy in chat for me to read. So I do have one. This is from Brian from Open Legend. What's up, Brian? How many print copies are we talking about here? I found that going along with a real print run is usually cheaper. You can also charge more for something that's not print on demand, and the breakout point is usually 300 to 500 depending on various details.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't even know. I should have better control over this, shouldn't I? Let me see. Sorry for the loud keyboard. It's my gaming keyboard.
It's okay. Mine is the sound of thunder.
Clacking mechanical keyboards.
So the print it looks like the print copy will be about 450 for Fantastic Adventures, and then 300 for Fantastic Locations. One of my goals, you can get Fantastic Locations as well. And I'm sure he's right. The question is, how do you handle shipping? And I am not going to get 500 books in my living room and then start shipping them out at $28 each. There's been a lot of discussion. Fred Hicks, who does a lot of Kickstarters for Evil Hat, he's actually a local, and he does a lot of stuff for Fate and and he wrote a really good article about how like the shipping to places overseas from the United States will just kill American Kickstarters. That like the costs go up so much, and there's just, you're not going to charge someone like, hey, yeah, thanks for the book. It'll be $45 shipping and handling. They'll be like, oh, 45, these suck, and I hate your book. Right? And when you're like, well, guess how much it cost me? It cost me $45, right? Like, I mean, I recently sold. I had a bunch of old Dwarven Forge stuff that I was selling, and I sold it to somebody. It was $300 for shipping. What? $300? Because it's in great big boxes. It was going to Seattle from the East Coast, and shipping is crazy expensive. Yeah. So. Now, one thing about he's right, and you're definitely with a print run, you can definitely get the cost of the copies down.
Right.
The hard part is distribution and shipping, and do you end up double charging for shipping, where I have to have them all shipped to me, and that costs some amount of money, and then I got to figure out some way to ship it for a reasonable price, and then you're back to and when am I going to get all the free time to box these up? I did hear from somebody else who's been running a Kickstarter around the same time that I was, who is doing it. And I think RPG Now, if you know how much your book is going to cost as far as printing costs, you can actually apparently send them a list and say, here's the list of all the people and here's the money to send it all to them. And if you have the costs already pre-wired, it'll just go. And because RPG Now, Lightning Press is the print-on-demand publisher, they're overseas as well as they're on your side of the pond as well as ours. And you're in the States this week, is that right?
We're in the States next month. Almost. Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So there's a shipping place over there. There's a shipping place here, which means it's generally cheap for Europe and U.S. and Europe. But then you still get a couple of people where the cost is going to be really high for shipping. So I haven't found. I'm sure there are better ways than I'm doing it. This is like I've got 3. You've done it 3 times. Since I'm doing 10, I might have that part of it worked out.
Yeah.
The whole print part is a bit of a scramble for me.
Gotcha.
But I can tell you that when it's in your hand, it's a great book. Like my copies of Fantastic Locations they're beautiful.
Nice.
I have them upstairs and I love them.
Yeah. Okay, so Xana says, did you see Arcane Mapper on Steam? Looks promising. Was considering paying for the early access. Thoughts? I just googled it and looked on the Steam page. Looks like a cool little map maker. I hadn't seen it before. It's £7 on Steam for map making.
Oh, looks nice.
Reviews are good. Early access. I tend not to get things while they're in early access. Just because I hate the idea.
I got Darkest Dungeon in early access.
That is a good game. I think that was the one game I did buy in early access. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Yeah, tell me what it's like if you do early access it.
So it brings up that wider question about like where are things going in the next 5 years? Are we going to see more and more and more of these? And I think so, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That, I'll tell you what I'd kind of be excited about, and you know I love Roll20. Like one of the owners of Roll20 plays in my Wednesday game, Richard Zayas, and I love the tool. It's really built for grid play, and I'm interested. And I know you tend to not play on the grid,
right?
So is that even accurate? Like you played it way more than I. Do you feel like Roll20 sort of focuses more on grid play?
Yeah, no, I think so. We just use it for dice rolling mostly, don't we?
Right. But
yeah.
I've seen. So I would be very interested to see more sites that kind of embrace that sort of shared tabletop. Here are pictures of things, and here's ways to quick general, quick maps that just give general relative look to things, and really fast ways to do like whiteboarding and a dice roller, that is super simple to use. I mean, like, I want to see, like, how do we get it where 6 people or 5 people can play D&D with nothing but their cell phones?
Yeah.
Online. I mean, I don't know how the hell you do that, but I would love to see something like that.
Yeah.
And so I love that there's all of this experimentation going on in this. It looks like Arcane Members are a good example. It looks beautiful.
I'm quite looking forward to having all the various tools that make things a lot easier. I mean, I personally don't prepare maps, partly because we do theatre of the mind, but
yeah, right.
It takes so long to draw a map, and if I'm going to sit down, I want to do it, and I want to do it properly. So seeing things come out like a couple of cart ones, they're great because it means that you can just make things on the fly, and then off it goes. It's so much easier. I'm very much looking to having all these tools like quick monster generation, quick character generation, NPCs, that stuff, something to help the DMs and even help the players. Like if you want like various spells and stuff, it's like Path. I mean, to be fair, everyone around our table, if we do play D&D, is like, well, here's my phone X, it has all my spells on it, and you can do Control and F and all that good jazz. But yeah, the tools that are coming out now are kind of like in that still kind of like alpha buggy phase where not all of them are perfect, but we're going to get to the point where it's going to be so much easier, and we have so many more tools at our disposal. It's going to make gaming a lot easier for us to run and prepare.
Yeah,
that is one area where I'm kind of grognardy, that I still throw all my books in the bag and take into the store, and part of the reason is I just like to, I like pulling out my monster manual and running. And I when I go to, like, I am a super lightweight packer when I go on travel, but I still throw my player's handbook in there because I like to actually have a player's. I like to, like, while I'm bored, because as a DM I suck as a player, and I get bored, and rather than like start reaching for the cell phone, I want to just open up the player's handbook and read some of the stuff I haven't really read. So I like having the physical book, but it's actually a really nice thing. And we did a convention a couple of months ago, and I took the books with me. I knew everything I needed to know. All the character sheets have been printed out, all the spells have been printed out, which is one advice I say if you're ever doing cons, pre-gen characters, make sure you print the spells. So much easier. Yeah, really good idea.
But bringing out the book like the 3 hours before the game starts, before anyone else has turned up, you pull out your D&D book and you start going through it, and people see that you have this book in your hand. They're like, oh, hey, they're playing D&D, and you go over and chat to them. You know that if they have a D&D book out, they are nerds and proud, and you can go talk to those guys. If you do it on a phone, not quite so cool.
Right. So it's funny you bring that up. One of the best players that I've ever had, really, really nice guy, ended up moving away and leaving my group, but I met him because I walked into a coffee shop, and he was sitting there with his wife reading 13th Age. And I just said, hey, how do you like 13th Age? And then talked to him about 13th Age for a while. He ended up coming to my game, and he was a regular player. He's one of the best players I've ever played with for years. Like, we played for 2 years because he would have the book. And I thought, what if he was reading a Kindle?
You
what if
never
he was
know.
reading it on his phone? I never would have gone up and said anything because I'd have no idea. So that idea that, like, and I've thought about this with books, that, like, I met my best friends in college because I was sitting waiting for a lunchroom to open, reading Sword of Shannara, which I didn't even like. But I had a guy who walked by and said, Sword of Shannara, do you ever play Dungeons & Dragons? I'm like, I played in high school. He's like, I got a game. I met my best friends for life because of that. And I'm like, what if I'd been reading a Kindle? He'd have walked right by, right?
Yeah.
That whole thing would have been gone. So
Yeah, I think it's like the whole
it's
like
really-
at a party, if you want to be social, take a lighter, because that's like that's the
Yeah, right,
universal
you
way
can
to
walk
start
around.
a conversation.
Right,
Like, I
right.
don't smoke, but it's a good way to get
Yeah,
chatting to someone.
It's
And I
why
think
all
if
my-
you're going to a
all my-
nerd shop,
all my T-shirts are Dungeons and Dragons T-shirts, and on my jacket that I wear, I have Dungeons and Dragons patches.
like,
you play Dungeons- and so far, no one has ever come up and looked at a patch. I think one person went up and said, "Oh, I like your Tiamat patch." Like, yeah, I got that at Gen Con 4 years ago.
nerds and proud. You might as well wear it if
Yeah,
you're going to do it.
but not just as a sign of being proud, but just as a way to start a conversation with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The online equivalent is people meeting through Roll20 these days. You know, I met these
or
people on the
Reddit.
forum and Reddit. Yeah. But no, I think the online tools for D&D are still pretty janky. Overall, like even Roll20 has got a fair amount of jank going on it most days that I log in. So I think that'll ease itself out with time, hopefully. All right, let's just bash through these questions. Do you remember the first D&D encounter? Our first D&D encounter, and if so, what happened and how did you handle it? Sydney, do you remember your first D&D encounter? I certainly don't.
Absolutely. Oh, yes, I do. It was. Okay, I think. Okay, I'm 19. I was 14.
5 years.
5 years ago.
That's maths.
Yeah. Alright, so I went to my friend Noah's house. His mom made us marshmallow popcorn, and it was 4th edition. Let's see.
The good old days.
The good old days. My best friend Joey was DMing, and I was playing a changeling sorcerer. We were in a shopping mall, like an outlet mall, and like weird goblins started attacking. And one of my really great friends, Noah, was playing Alex, a trans wizard, and it was in the process of changing.
Wow.
And so he was wearing these high heels and started to use them as a weapon to beat the goblins, and we won. And then they left a little baby goblin behind, and his name was Squee, and I adopted him, and he was my child from then on.
Wow.
And that was my very first time ever playing D&D.
That's beautiful.
It's impressive.
It was great.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, no more needs to be said. I think we can all
Someone-
It's a good one.
relate to that one in some degree. So you go PDF hard copy. Are there any plans to have them pre-built into Roll20 like Wizards is doing now? I believe this is in reference to your adventures. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. So I have a very good friend of mine, James Intercasso, who runs the Don't Split the podcast network, and he's also doing the pre-gen characters for Fantastic Adventures, and he's done a bunch of the conversion work. So if you've been playing the D&D modules in Roll20, he's one of the guys
that's right. Yeah.
for it. And he and I have been talking about whether or not we could take these adventures and put them into Roll20. I didn't want to offer it as a stretch goal because I wasn't sure how widespread it would be, like how much of a benefit would that be to people. And I also don't. It's like another variable that I don't really know. So maybe I know that the PDF of the maps and the art, you will easily be able to pull those out of the PDF and drop them into the map maker for Roll20. So there'll definitely be something like that. And the monsters that are in it are all monsters that are in the SRD. So you should be able to play this adventure pretty easily over Roll20. I don't think anything will be
Nice.
that difficult. But yeah, it's not built for it. And
Right.
I don't know, maybe
Was that a conscious choice to only pick things from the SRD?
Yes. Yeah.
A legal choice, right?
Well, yeah, right. Like I work with so there's a legal choice, and you can I think that we could probably get away with a lot more than we do, but why poke the people that I like and have worked with?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't really feel like I needed to have anything that was outside of that. Like if people want to replace the monsters with other more powerful or other weirder things, they certainly should feel free. I didn't make any new monsters. One thing is I didn't
Right.
want to have like a separate set of monsters for this. I kind of like the limitation of saying like, how do you make an interesting thing with lizard men, lizard folk. And I always feel like the monsters are so plug and play into a module anyway.
Oh yeah.
Many times if you're like, I hate lizard folk, I'm going to replace those with whatever.
Yeah.
The ghouls from Book of Lairs. Great. Go with God. So
Yeah,
yeah, so it was a conscious choice to stick to SRD monsters.
Okay. Question from Carone. Have you thought of turning an RP campaign into one of those old school adventure books, the ones where you had to turn a certain page depending on what action you wanted to take? Yeah, the old fantasy.
Like choose your own adventure style?
Fighting fantasy.
like
Yeah, God, yeah, Livingston and I forget the other guy. The overall's name is a Warhammer guy. Actually, if you're interested in a good stream about that, a friend of mine, Arvin Elleron, runs a. I don't know what night or what time, but I know he does it. He plays through the old Final Fantasy books with chat. That sounds like a cool idea. Those books are my shit.
I think there is a huge. So there's probably more. Well, I'll tell you. Anybody that can, and probably people have been thinking about this for 40 years. Any way to help people play D&D by themselves is probably a huge area. And the other one is, and I know they've done this for Cthulhu Confidential. I think Cthulhu Confidential might be the name of it. Mm-hmm. But there's like the one-on-one games,
right?
And I think that there could be more options for stuff like that. Like, how would you run D&D with one player or two players and one DM? I think that there's sort of a dynamic that exists when you have 4 to 6 players and one DM. There's sort of this the group working off of each other seems to be as far as like the whole yes and improv-y sort of idea. But I think that there's more just because getting people together at a table to play D&D is so hard. There's a lot of room for like how do you play more by yourself. I think there's room for stuff like that.
I agree. I mean, the most common question that we ever get on these sort of shows is, how do I find a game? Where do I find a game? I've got a command in chat to
the hardest problem with D&D.
Yeah.
By far. All this nonsense about needing locations and all this nonsense about like how hard it is to make monsters, and that is not anywhere as hard as just getting a group.
Yeah, because for example, if you got, a DM can sit down and do all the prep work for it, but if you've got no players, it's completely pointless.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like thankfully due to things like like Reddit and Roll20 and all those big forums, it's like you can now get groups from across the world, but then you have the time zone problem, which is always the most interesting.
People together, but and I was it's funny. I was talking to yesterday. I ran a game and I had a couple folks that showed up late to the game, and then one person who had to leave early. And I remembered that Gygax, apparently one of the ways Gygax would run a game is he had like a limitless dungeon in his basement that was always ready to go, and players could just show up and do a couple of rooms and then leave, and he could have like an ongoing constant stream of people that would just come through his house and play D&D. And then that was one of the reasons why there were these sort of mega dungeons, is that each room has its own little story. So maybe there's more room for like how do you build more games that only take an hour. Sean Merwin and I talked about that on another show, where what does it take to build D&D adventures that can run in an hour, and how does a DM need to run a game in an hour so that you can have sort of these continuing things that are more palatable into the lives of us busy folk.
I like the idea that it's much like an arcade drop-in drop-out kind of game. Because I say not everyone has the time to spend 4 hours. That's quite a significant amount of time in anyone's day.
So Will, you run those 24-hour big marathon ones. Have you ever run games like that where people are kind of dropping in and dropping out and the story's just ongoing?
We did a couple of 12-hour streams like that in the past. Never full 24. I just drive myself insane talking to the same people, I think. They'll get sick of me. But I've done a couple of 12-hour ones that people would drop in and drop out. I'll join in the 6 hours and then a couple of people drop out. We did that with
Star Wars. Is it clunky, or is the transition between people dropping in and dropping out not so bad?
It was so long ago, I don't remember how well the transitions went. I think I was pretty drunk at the time. In my head, they went well. In reality, they may not have done.
I think usually you can tell, like, someone is starting to get really tired. And
they just drop energy.
They don't involve themselves as much because they need a nap, and then they're like, I think I'm just kind of dead. I'm sorry.
home. Yeah.
They just head
My
desk.
character's gonna go home and like tend to their sheep or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really depends. I mean, to be fair, if you've got a group of people that are expecting to do that, you kind of, unless it's like a properly ongoing campaign, if you're doing like the 12-hour or 6-hour stream or something, if you know that you're going to be off at 3, you need to either kill your character by 3 or have a good reason to go. So it's kind of up to the player and the DM to work on that, to go, right, and this is a convenient time for you to, take the hike, so to speak. So yeah, so long as you handle it properly, it's probably not too bad. We've had a couple of games where we've done like 12-hour days, like, hey, it's my birthday, we're doing a 12-hour game, and we've had people turn up in the morning, leave in the afternoon, sort of thing, and I'll be continually sitting in the chair, and people are like, oh, by the way, I'm here, and I was like, you open a door and your friend is in a chest. We sometimes it's been that obscure depending on how much you drink, but yeah, it can be done. It's not great, but it's doable.
There's probably a way to sort of, if you think about it from the dungeon perspective of every room is its own tiny little story, and from room to room, even the player characters can kind of shift in and out. There's probably ways to take like an entire adventure, and every scene, the people that are in that scene can change, and that way it's like you have these sort of 30-minute scenes, and the scenes keep going, but anybody could jump into any scene and kind of figure out, okay, here is the hook that was into the scene, and here are the ways that are out of the scene. And my character might only be there to have the conversation with the king, and then they're gone. Yeah. And then the next scene is investigating why the lizard folk ate the penny. And they are in that scene. I don't know. There could be kind of a way to chain stories together that might have this sort of. I like that. When I think about video games where people kind of drop in and drop out, and it doesn't matter what level you are, and you don't, the barrier to entry is really low. I think that there's probably room there. There's probably more room for that in D&D, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's definitely doable. I say the idea is saying like breaking it into smaller chunks. Like, well, here's a little chunk, here's a little chunk, here's a little. I guess it's kind of a lot like as much as I despise the ending of the show, Lost. They had all these separate stories that fed into the larger story. Sure. So as long as you as the DM are remembering to keep track of what the change back here was. So if they do come back like 12 hours later and they're like, oh, that decision I made way back then actually has made a difference to the final story. So it could definitely be done. It will definitely take work, but it could definitely be done. That would be an interesting experiment to run, I think.
So Will, I'm going to go back to a question you asked an hour ago real quick. I know we're talking about questions, but sometimes my brain takes an hour to...
No, that makes sense.
You ready for your 5-year prediction?
Yeah.
Artificial intelligent DMs. Right?
There we go.
Think about like think about like Roll20, and you can log into Roll20 whenever you want.
No,
and there's a DM ready to go, ready to run, like the equivalent of, and we in the nerd circles, they're not a deep learning Markov chain based DM thing, which is essentially like the random tables that are in the DM running. And it gives a little story, and it lets you do text-based adventure typing. And any number of people can kind of jump in. It'll just throw you with another group, and you can play D&D whatever you want.
So it's like one of those old MUDs.
Yeah.
But everyone can join in multiplayer dynamic MUD.
Right.
That sounds kind of cool.
If you think about these roguelike, the roguelike games where the dungeons are constantly shifting and changing. It could be like that, only sort of text-based adventure D&D kind of stuff. So there you are. There's your 5
I like it. There we go. Got our audio.
Better me telling you that 5-year predictions are a bunch of shit.
We got our soundbite.
We've gone to one expert, now got 2 opinions, so this is perfect.
No, you're not allowed to take those 2 as 2 different data points. One data point.
2 expert opinions.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
There's Mike of 1 hour ago and Mike of now.
Yep.
By the way, apparently my mom is listening. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mike's mom.
Hey.
Fantastic. So another question similar to this: how would you improve online D&D? I'm a game dev, so I could look into things. Interesting, Mockans. Sydney, how would you improve online D&D?
All right. So I think one problem that I've run into is like there, and a lot of people complain about it too. Is like the vibe is different because you're not actually around a table. You can't read the body language and all that. So something to combat that.
VR.
Something, I know. But Skype is great and all, but like. I don't like. So I guess something you could even do yourself. It's not even really a technological improvement.
Right.
It's just like
technique.
I don't really like it when people are just all you can see is like from like their neck up, and
I want to see the full body.
I want to see everyone's
Yeah.
body.
No,
I want to see
no, you
everyone
really
moving.
don't. No, you want
There's
that,
a
you
reason
don't
why
want
some
that.
of us nerds only want to be seen from
Yeah.
this high up.
You want a 360 webcam.
Yeah, I would
Nope.
like to see everything.
Nope. I want to see their heartbeats. I want to see their respirations.
But you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Good
Like
job.
sometimes,
Oh,
like
that's interesting.
sometimes
Here,
you
Yeah,
can't,
think
you're
about it,
just
man.
like
on.
Think
you're
about
like
it, man.
just not as into it. And then a
Yeah,
lot of
right.
times, even on stream, it's like a lot of times, like when we're just sitting here, you get like the other people that are in the call can't see us, or we can't see them, and it just
Right.
gives this weird like a lot of interrupting each other, and a lot of like you can't really see people like getting ready to say something or something like that. Like just things to avoid that.
So yeah, okay, I like that.
Yeah,
That's
I think like the one thing that I try, and because we've had a couple of guys who never DM'd and they were like, we're going to give it a go, and the thing I always give them is read the room, and it's very difficult to do that when you're not in the same room.
Yeah.
Because there's things that you know, for example, right now I could be playing with my phone. I could prove to you I'm not. I could be playing my phone, but you'd never notice. You'd never notice that I am bored off my bored off my noggin right now. I'm not playing with my phone. I have no phone. Is that I could be completely bored off my noggin, but you're never going to know that because you can only see from here. And so much of like human interaction is in your entire body, not just like your face and your shoulders and your hands, which I noticed you died up, but the entire body language. It tells you so much that you can't get from a Skype call or from a tabletop thing.
So what you want, what we need, is we touch
Sorry,
our.
I was playing playing Planescape. What'd you say?
See, that's more funny because I've just seen you on stream get out your phone.
We're just trolling.
So we've got like a 10-second delay.
So what we need is like the ability to, I don't know, like it's like smell-o-vision, you know, like you can sense the room, you can like you touch some like pad on your computer and like you can sense the other people in the room, and then like if you put your hand on the pad, they feel like, I don't know, there's got to be some kind of science.
I don't even know what I would say.
That's got to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be more difficult to manage, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean there.
Yeah, there's got to be some giant leap forward. There must be more than Skype. You know, there must be more than Skype.
I just always find myself I'm so ADD that I just can't. Like if I'm just staring at the computer, I'll fall over, and like no one will know why. And
Maybe
I'll just be on
maybe VR is the answer. I mean, genuinely.
Well, so there's something about engagement, right?
Yeah, engagement. Yeah.
Yeah, like how do you keep? I mean, we have this trouble even at, I mean, I can do the same thing. Like I have a bunch of people that come over to my game, and they come after work, and they're playing, and they're all on their phones. Like literally every one of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's their time too. If they want to be on their phones, that's fine. And generally they're engaged enough that we're still playing D&D. But yeah, that how do you I think that's one of the issues of D&D. And I know I'm just as bad as a player. Yeah, I reach for my phone a lot because it's like I'm only one of 5 people. It's either I'm dominating the game or I'm on my phone. I guess the ideal is I could be paying attention to the game.
We to be fair, when we start a game, we're always like, okay, make sure your phones are turned off unless you're the one person around the table who we know has to have his phone on at all times.
Yeah, right.
That's fair enough. It's like there is always the one guy
that.
who needs to go back for his kids or whatever, especially at the age that we are now.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of
difficult.
Yeah, a lot of people who do that. I had a friend who came in for the first time, and he was playing, and he was like, constantly like checking his watch.
Oh yeah, that's
and I was like, I finally stopped. I said, "Do you have to go somewhere?" It's like, "Oh no, I got a new watch. It gives me text messages on the watch." And, and I'm like, "Wow, it totally looked like you couldn't wait to get the hell out of here."
Actually, getting back to that body language thing, I think I figured out what it is. It's eye contact. Because when I'm playing with my characters and I'm actually literally talking to them, the eye contact's really important because your eyes tell you so much.
Yeah.
I could look into this webcam, but I can't see your eyes to engage back in with you. And I think that's what I find the hardest. Because when I was growing up, I found it very difficult to talk to people, and I noticed that I wouldn't look anyone in the eye, I'd look anywhere but. And over time, it took me a long time to realize that if I look people in the eye, I can communicate it much better, and things get less lost in translation. And I think that may actually be partly it. You can't look someone in the eye when you're looking on a camera.
So a way for the webcam somehow to I don't know, you can see and look at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you can look into someone's eyes.
You need like Google Glass or something, really, don't you?
They had
So that
those
when
for
you're looking
Snapchat.
at
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
need to assimilate into the ball.
I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about, because like when I was a kid, I didn't play games with my family, but like it might as well have been. We didn't play like games with dice, but we would play pretend, like, and I would be the princess and everyone else would not be the princess. You know what I mean? But like when we would do this, like it like, you know, you look at each other, and like a lot of times when you can't do that, just you're not as into it, and you don't get to see people's facial expressions as much, and you don't, and even if you can, you don't know that facial expression is directed at you. So like it just there's a lot of things, a lot of like deep character development that you don't get to necessarily because of the, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
There's literally a screen between me and you.
Yes.
So when I have like those intimate moments, I will close down my laptop because that's where I have all my notes, and it helps me to like hide my dice rolls. I know I've got a box, that's not the point, but I close that down and I will put everything aside. You know, if it's an intimate thing, I will take their hands and just talk at them. You know, or at them. Sorry, we'll have a conversation. I won't talk at them. Bad phrasing. But yeah, it's you know, you can close that down and you don't have that screen if you don't need it. But we are literally looking at a screen. It's literally something between me and you, and that's very If you could eliminate that, this is going to be great.
Yeah. We need to. So the answer is eliminate laptops and.
Yeah. Go back to old school. We'll go meet in like a village hall or at the local nerd shop or something. Yeah. It's the way forward. None of this streaming rubbish anymore.
We'll be teleporting our bodies to one like space in the Matrix where we can all play together.
Oh man, I do it. I do that today.
Yeah, straight
I got
up.
this knee in my hip. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'd get like, you know, we need like the implant in the back of our brains so we can all
whatever.
connect together. I'm down.
So we can all go. We can all go to the internet and go find a tavern, and we can sit in the fake tavern and have fake beer and talk about fake games that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
This is going to be great.
Perfect. All right, so that's our first battle of questions. If you do have any other questions, feel free to file them at us, my friends, and make sure you do @Encounter Roleplay, and I will get to them. We did have a question for Mike, though. It was Tabletop Day yesterday.
Yeah.
The one day I didn't play tabletop games. Woo! What did you do anything special for Tabletop Day, Mike?
Yeah, I had a bunch of friends of mine come over and play D&D. Which, granted, I do that other days, but I tried to grab. So I did a couple things in particular. I invited a friend that I haven't had a chance to play D&D with for some time, who used to be part of a regular group, and through real life events hadn't been in a few. And I invited another friend of mine from work that had never played D&D before, and then 3 other friends and my wife who I play with relatively regularly. We had apple pie. Oh man, I got apple pie. I can have some apple pie later.
Oh,
and I forgot about that. I should have had some. You know, not to chill it again, but played a fantastic adventure.
Wow.
You know, you have to ask them if it was truly fantastic. So, fantastic adventure.
As a DM, it was great. They followed every single plot device to put down. They didn't deviate from track.
Yeah, I hope not, because I threw multiple plot devices and had them pick. So,
yeah, the spaghetti against the wall approach.
Yeah.
Here's a bunch of plots, you pick whichever
Right,
one.
here's 3 yeah, like it literally had like an NPC like, are you gonna have a drink with me, or am I sitting here drinking by myself? You know, and like, oh, family got murdered, man. Like, I don't have time for drinks. We gotta go figure out having the murdered family. Like, they're dead. They're not going anywhere. I got problems at the pipeline. You gonna come and help me or not? So yeah. So that, yeah. I really, not to get all sentimental, but since I talk statistics for an hour, I suppose I can turn into a human being for a little bit. Yeah. There is nothing in my life that I like more than just getting together with my friends and my wife and playing D&D. It is the best. You know, and that's why I do it as often as I can. That, you know, it's great to just sit around with people that you like and laugh and tell jokes and relax, and there's no pressure, and I know that not every game can be like that. There's definitely pressure in a lot of games, but like in this game, and I tried really hard for the new player to, you know, say like, look, all that really matters is you roll that 20-sided die, you add a number to it, and you see if it's higher than the number that I tell you. And other than that, you can do whatever the hell you want, and don't worry about the character sheet, because the guy next to you will help point at what numbers on the character sheet you should do. And really, you know, you're golden. And he like had a great time, and he really enjoyed it. So that's what I did for Tabletop Day. Is just, you know, D&D is my absolute, like, I always joke that if I've got if I've got more than 4 people, we're playing D&D. I don't want to play anything else.
Yeah.
Like, I have somebody said like, because I guess what's that new board game that's just storming on Kickstarter? I backed it, Doomhaven or something. Gloomhaven.
Oh, I don't even know.
Half.
I'm so out of board games.
Man, okay, so there's I forget what it's called. I think it's Gloomhaven. Now I'm gonna have to look it up. And so they're just roaring away on Kickstarter. And I heard about it because non-gamer friends of mine are like, have you heard of this? Sorry for the loud keyboard. Gloomhaven, and it's got 30 hours to go. I don't know why I'm pitching a Kickstarter that's got $3.5 million.
That would be why people have heard of it.
Is it fantastic?
SlyFlourish's Fantastic Adventures.
Have you heard the good word?
Yeah. So have you heard the good word about? Have you heard about Fantastic Adventures? So Gloomhaven is a board game that's a D&D like board game. It's like the number 6 best board game on RPG on Board Game Geek. This is their second printing, and obviously it's got 35,000 backers, right? So, and its goal is a cooperative adventure board game kind of stuff for 1 to 4 players. And my joke was like, if I've got 4 players, we're playing D&D. I don't need I don't need a board game. I'm ready to go. I got dice. I got character sheets. I'm ready. I got pre-gens. Let's play some.
Yeah,
And,
like every good DM, I have my pre-gens and I have enough dice to kit out every new player that comes up. I have enough to go, here, have my spare dice, and if you decide to buy your own, I'll have them back.
we call them the dice of shame.
Yeah.
Which is our bag of reject dice, and we're like, you get the dice of shame. Like one of them doesn't even have numbers on it. It's
we have the bag of cursed dice.
Yeah, right. And my problem is one of the guys went through them and he found all of the good dice in the bag of shame, and he's like set those aside as his dice. I'm like, I gotta throw those away. You can't have good dice in the dice. But yeah, like it's like if the house is on fire, I know exactly what to grab to have a D&D game ready to go outside.
Yeah.
I got my go bag. So that's my that's what I did for Tabletop Day. What did other people do for Tabletop Day?
What did you guys do on tabletop?
We didn't play D&D because every day is tabletop day.
That was like my last day of school, and I finished, and then we went out and we got drunk. And then came home and we watched The Office.
Yeah.
So I guess you guys had the equivalent of like Buffy the Vampire.
Is a holiday from Tabletop.
It's like it's national holiday.
Like where Buffy had like Halloween off because it's like a tacky day. You guys are like, oh, this is the one day. This is the one day.
Instead of putting like dice on the table, we just put drinks. Constant alcohol.
So Texas, maybe we need to learn how to systematically addict friends in our areas to love D&D. So instead of finding D&Ds or schedules that work, we find schedules and force feed D&D. That works. That makes a lot of sense. If there is some kind of in the future, there's a serum that you can insert into people, inject into people, like a gut.
They have to play D&D, or they
or you could you could shoot people with D&D.
Is that what happened to you?
Going back to the guns, or drink, make them drink it with Coke.
A bunch of my Gen Xer friends on Twitter have been talking about how we're all going to put together the D&D retirement home. Like we're all like, oh man, I can't wait. Like, you hear about the old people who like don't want to go to retirement home. Like, no, I want to stay in my crusty old home. I can't D&D all the time. Like, I'm there. I dread to think the future of retirement homes because I've lived so many lives with all the different RPGs I have. I have three characters I'm very attached to. And I will slip into anyone. I'm a little bit. I slip into any of them very, very quickly, and I'm very attached to them all. And the idea that I hit a retirement home, begin to lose my marbles, and I'll start talking to people as my psychotic Nazir, or I'll start talking to people as my very first, as my dwarven fighter or my dwarven bard, for example. It's like I dread to think that retirement home as I'm trying to run around in my wheelchair, like trying to use like a defensive stance on people, that'd be really fun. Storm of steel. Yeah. I think they call that LARPing.
Yeah. My retirement home will be a LARP.
That's where I'm going to send my parents so that they finally understand one day.
Right. One day you get to play. I mean, like people now are playing cards all the time. It's like not that far off, and I don't know.
That sounds
I
awesome.
feel like my dad would go.
Your dad don't go there.
He would.
That's it. That's our business plan. We do this now.
Yeah, right.
We get this in place now. We start stockpiling games that it's easy for someone new to come in and pick up and play with us. And by the time we hit that age, we're going to forget what the campaign
Man.
was that we wrote now.
Yeah.
Man.
We've got this sold.
Well, and there's something to say that, like, whatever people's various cognitive faculties are, the game can kind of scale for that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So it can kind of go back to eventually you're playing No Thank You Evil.
Yeah. Shyness games. Yeah, I tell you what, Sly, seeing we've been talking about some other games here, some fantastic games. We've been playing a lot of Numenera recently.
Yeah.
We talked about that fantastic Kickstarter success. Will there ever be a, and this is again for my sound bites, will there ever be a quote-unquote D&D killer? Will there ever be anything which will rival, topple, even come close?
No, Pathfinder just about did.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know where they stand now. I
yeah,
would
that's
probably use the statistics, and then probably an easy statistic is how well it's doing on Roll20. Again, I can I'm sort of stacking statistics, but it was like 14 or 16% of DMs who answered the DM survey play on Roll20 exclusively, so that's a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you look at that, I don't know what the Pathfinder to D&D ratio is, but I'll tell you, like, those two are dominating against everything else.
Yeah.
They're way
Yeah,
higher
as-
than else.
if like conventions or anything to go by, I don't
Oh, yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
not in America, I wouldn't know. But looking at conventions that I can get to, almost all of them are exclusively Pathfinder.
there's a
When
lot
I said I'll run a D&D one shot, they were like, "Yes, D&D, this is great." I'm like, "Oh, I guess I'll come DM then." Finding D&D like at conventions is actually, I don't find them that easy to find really.
Yeah.
They almost seem to be always exclusively Pathfinder.
Yeah, the ones here. So the few that I go to, Gen Con and Origins, and some of the other ones, the Pathfinder and D&D sides are both roughly the same size. In Gen Con in the last few years, I'd say Pathfinder was bigger, but they have the Adventurers League stuff. Is pretty big. At all,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, of course, like D&D Experience or Winter Fantasy, which then became D&D Experience, and now it's back to Winter Fantasy again. Is a smaller convention, but it's almost all D&D.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is where I aim. Like, I'm sure there's a ton. I know that there are. Paizo has like PaizoCon, I think, and of course, I'm guessing there's no D&D people.
Probably not so much. How about if I phrase it like this? What would it take for a game to come close to rival?
Man, I mean,
Well, for you.
for me,
Because you say, nothing would draw me away from D&D. If we've got 4 players, we're playing D&D.
I'm kind of going back to some of the things we had. But if there was a game, I mean, I think what if somebody designed a game that was really built for a mobile phone, and you played your RPG on a mobile phone, and you could connect to people easily, you could connect to your friends easily, and you could play a D&D like game, but the rules and the mechanics were designed to work well on a mobile phone, just so you could get connected with people quickly and play games quickly. I mean, something like that would do it.
You know what would be so cool if that happened, and then if you were DMing through that the app would let you just distort your voice or something,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
you could press it, and then everyone else
filters.
heard you as a
Yeah.
man or a monster.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would be so cool.
That would be sweet.
Yeah,
I'm kind of thinking it's going to be more like dating apps. So if someone in your area plays swipe left if you want to play a rogue or something.
I would totally,
It pops up with all your rogue abilities, and it connects you to a game.
I pitched that to Mitch. I don't know what, maybe 6 months to a year ago. I was like, give me, we were joking. I say, give me however much it costs to design a website, and I will make Tinder for D&D. And I bet you anything it would be good. That sounds like an app
Somebody
to
just
meet
linked
people
a
playing
game
D&D.
called Expedition, which is apparently a role-playing game that's built for iPhone and stuff.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, again, I don't know that anything's ever going to tear me. I mean, ever's a long time. But one of the things I love is again, I get filled with this just such great feelings about it. That I've got 3 books upstairs. And as long as they don't evaporate, as long as they don't burn up, I can play D&D with those 3 books for the rest of my life and not get bored.
Yeah.
I don't need much. And I mean, Fate is fantastic. I love Fate. I love 13th Age, right? 13th Age really nailed all the 4E sort of stuff that I love. I like Numenera. Numenera, I always say, is in an alternate universe somewhere. I'm playing Numenera all the time.
Yeah,
You know, I love it, but I just don't have. I don't know. I don't have the time. And I think that's really, you know, we talked about like the limiting features of being able to. What are the limiting factors of the hobby? And some say, some say that the DMs are the limiting factor. There just aren't enough DMs.
Mm-hmm.
And I always go like, I don't know what you're having a problem with. There's plenty of DMs. Like I'm a DM. You know, I'm ready to go.
I think
when you are a DM, there's no problem finding DMs.
I think every player is a potential DM. So I don't think that's a particular argument. But I think the limiting factor of our hobby, so to speak, is finding people to play and finding, especially finding the game that you want to play. Like some people are happy playing one shots, which actually Pathfinder is pretty good at because you can drag and drop your character into anything and it will scale yada yada yada, and that's the advantage of Pathfinder really. But with D&D, it's like you can do one shots and that's great. But if you're looking for a really heavy RP intense game, you need to find people of a similar temperament to be able to play that game. Or if you just want to play like a sci-fi game, you know, it's finding people who are in the same mindset for a particular game you want to play at that particular time, and having a regular schedule, which is always a pain in the ass. I think that's always going to be the limiting factor on us.
I just have to call out one of the chatter, Tiggity Tex, who says, I mean, technically, you're playing Numenera somewhere. And I'm like, yeah, you know, in a quantum multiverse,
some world,
there's an infinite amount of worlds where I'm playing Numenera right now.
Tiggity, I love you, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's very true. That's nice to know that that's going on, because I feel bad about the fact that the box set is sitting on my dining room table.
Oh, man, yeah.
In an alternate universe, you feel bad that the D&D player's handbook is sitting there.
I'm like, man, I wish I was playing more D&D.
Yeah.
I guess that's life. Always regret wherever you are. I don't know. What was it called? Fear of missing out. There's apparently this, another getting used to. And the only time I feel it is when I'm at a gaming convention, and I'll be at Gen Con, and I'm sitting and I'm playing a game and I'm enjoying it. I'm with great people, and I'm Twitter. I'm like, man, there's a game like 4 doors away, and I bet they're having more fun than I'm having. Shows over there playing. I feel like that all the time.
I think for me, like, it's not necessarily D&D itself, it's role-playing. I couldn't care what system we use. I couldn't care if we decided the outcome of an ability is based on a flick of a coin, if it's based on adding like 5 different numbers to a D12, D4, whatever. For me, it's the role-playing game. And this morning, when I got up at 4:30 this morning to play a game, I played a game without a single roll in it.
Yeah.
And it was an intense role-playing game. It was so intense. It was a grimdark campaign, which I don't often get to play because my people aren't like that. It was great for me. It's the RP. I couldn't care what system it is, so long as you can sit down with a group of people. I think someone said it best actually. It was the idea that if you meet a bunch of people, the way to bond them together really quickly, if they share nothing in common, is to create music. Because as soon as someone starts tapping, someone else can start clicking or start humming and stuff. And it's the creative process of doing something that bonds people together. So you can be sitting here, as long as you could vocalize, you can move your hands, you can have a conversation, you can role play, and it doesn't matter what tools you have there. You can have nothing. You can all be blind. You can, to be fair, also all be deaf. You can sign language your way through the entire thing. So I think for me, it's role playing, and I couldn't care what system it is that I play.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's like, in a post Donald Trump North Korea nuclear war, we're still going to be playing, right? Like we'll be around the campfire.
Yeah, we're still going to be playing make believe. We just play make believe.
Like, man, I hate the world. How about we talk about Azeroth? We talk about,
This is basically what it is now.
Your room. Azeroth is Warcraft. Warcraft will be gone by the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, it's going to survive. WoW will be here forever, man.
WoW will be here. We'll still be grinding.
Yeah, I'm still going to be grinding through
gear grinding.
Yeah.
Man, I was so looking forward to the nuclear war. We wouldn't have to grind gear anymore.
Wrong.
Here I am.
Wrong.
Still grinding for gear.
You're gonna say something, Sid?
Oh yeah, just like I just think it's gonna be so hard to like take over D&D as far as being like a household name.
Yeah.
It's like RPG.
It's got history,
RPG isn't so much, but D&D, like there are D&D movies. Like anytime there's a group of nerds in a TV show, they talk about D&D.
Good ones.
And then like there are plays about it, like that colleges do.
Oh
like,
there's
like D&D is just like it's not even necessarily that everyone loves it. It's just it went through a period of time where it was just a meme.
Yeah.
Where people were like, "I'll go home and play with your Dungeons and Dragons
D&D
friends."
needs more memes.
So like, you just can't beat that.
You
because
can't buy it in a way,
yeah,
can you? Yeah,
yeah.
a company can't buy like credentials. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, the other part of it, and this is where like I'm so happy to be with you guys here, and I'm so impressed. You know, with Will, when you and I started talking, it was just like,
Yeah.
again, you know, I mean, it makes me feel like the old man because I'm like, I don't even know how the hell this Twitch thing works. You know? But
Yeah,
holy
tell me
cow,
about it, man.
you got attention, and when it's like, you know, my wife and I are like, you know, the movie theater down the street is going to have a 4-hour D&D game being played by people around a table as a movie, and we're both like staring at each other like, what the hell world do we live in? Like, this is good. That's awesome. Well, what the people, you know, and like I love telling it to like the muggles in my life.
Yeah.
and going to them and being like, you know, they're like, what's that D&D? And I'm like, well, you know, people, you know, make a full-time living playing D&D online, and like,
Yeah.
How?
you're crazy. Like, that can't happen. I'm like, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, the
Huh.
idea that you were sitting around a table with like 4, 5, 6, 7 of your best mates, and that
Right.
someone else is going to watch that is
Right.
unbelievable to me. And people are going to pay
Right.
to watch that. It's
Right.
unbelievable
Not
to
just
me.
somebody, but like, how, you know, what is it for the penny arcade ones? It's like they got 50,000 people. They got like
Yeah.
4,000 people in the audience, like physically there.
Yeah.
You know, and then hundreds of thousands that watch, millions of people that watch it online. And you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, it's just great. I love it. You know,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think I think that 1.5% growth is definitely due to that sort of explosion.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was at the Adventure Zone. They do like some of we did this live, and they were like, it's 4 dudes, 3 brothers and their dad, sitting to play D&D. We're not
Right.
doing anything. We're not standing up. We're not making a performance. We're making this up on the spot, and there are thousands of people in the audience looking like
Yeah.
our characters. That is a surreal
Oh,
experience.
and
that
it's
really
very
must
funny.
be.
Yeah, it's funny because
Yeah.
my group every so often will be like, "How come you don't broadcast your games?" And I'm like, "Hey guys, would you like to broadcast your game on Twitch?" And they're like,
What's
Fuck no.
Twitch?
What's
I'm like, "No, no
Yeah.
way."
There's a freedom.
What's Twitch is the other answer.
Yeah. There's a freedom in a home game that you don't get when you stream, because to stream you have to go to an audience. You have to be very aware that your audience is there watching you. Know?
Yeah, right. I'd
Yes.
be afraid of saying something stupid.
Oh yeah, tell me about.
I apparently am not afraid of that any other time.
You got over that
For-
pretty
for me-
quickly.
Yeah, for me it's saying something stupid, doing something stupid, and having everyone tell me I've done something stupid, despite the fact I know I have done something stupid,
Yeah.
or saying something accidentally offensive to someone.
Right.
It's
I
always the
agree
other
with
thing I
that.
keep an
I'm
eye
like, you
on.
know, I'm like 3 sentences away from like, you know, suddenly turning into Hitler. You know, you Nazi.
and you
I'm like,
know.
what? I was just, you know,
Ah,
for
fucking-
me,
So like, yeah, right.
yeah, for me, it's mostly curbing my language. I swear a lot because I was in a job job environment where everyone swore. We were engineers, and that's just
Right.
how it is on shop floor. Every other word is an F, a blind, and a C, and I have to be very careful to meter that out of my language. I'm very proud I have not used the C word on the stream or
Yeah,
on
right.
the podcast.
Well, I'll
I'm
tell
very
you,
proud of
yeah.
myself for not having done that.
Brits, you know, now we're talking about like the cultural pond. Yeah, the Brits and Americans, the C word is very different.
Yeah, oh yeah,
You know,
I
like-
can attest.
In Britain, it feels like, you know, to an American, it feels like in Britain, it is like an F-bomb or, you know,
Yeah.
and no one really cares. And in the States, no one cares about it. You use the C word and you are ostracized.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't say
You're-
that word to your mum.
you know, HR is getting involved.
Yeah. Oh man, no. You know the greatest thing about Twitch, you can be a fucking meme lord and no one cares. You know, that's kind of part of it. So
Yeah.
the
I
Jeremy
love it. I just
Jeremy
think-
Irons D&D movie was
Yeah.
fantastic, by the way.
I wish I could figure out how to wire it, just like the Numenera. I wish I could figure out how to wire it more into my life. I don't know where the hell to fit another 5 minutes of anything.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It's really strange. That is, I think that it's a sort of generational thing for me, that like watching YouTube, and I know like even YouTube is like slow and weird now.
Right.
But like, I just want to read text. You know, like I can read really fast, but watching a YouTube video, like it's like an hour. Who the hell
Yeah,
has
yeah,
an
yeah.
hour? I don't have an hour. I gotta go somewhere in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Fuck 'em is a catchphrase now. It's true. Fuck 'em. Yeah. Someone super invented. Fuck 'em. Yeah, I think Gareth started to see it a couple of times. I'm sure. You know.
I'm pretty sure it's always been about Asker though. So like.
Yeah, it's fine. It's guaranteed. It's hard to avoid. So, yeah. No. Well, it's been real. We're coming up on our 2 hours here. If there are any last minute questions, any last words for you guys in chat, feel free to throw them at us. Mike, thanks for joining us.
It's wonderful.
It's been fantastic. Do you have anywhere we can follow you? You want to do your home hooks and plugs?
I'm getting off the internet. This internet.
I'm going out the grid.
I'm quitting.
I'm going off the grid. I'm gonna go outside and play D&D with my neighbors. So my website is SlyFlourish.com. I have weekly articles talking about D&D stuff there, primarily focused on 5e, but some of it transfers to other systems. Twitter, I'm on twitter.com/SlyFlourish. Those are the big main ones. Everything else kind of, spreads out from there.
Awesome. And we're doing something later this week, right?
Yeah, let me pitch that. Sorry, one other thing. So my friend, I mentioned him earlier, James Intercasso, and Rudy Basso, another friend, both are running the Don't Split the Podcast Network, which is a podcast network. But they now are doing other shows, and one of the shows is the DM Deep Dive, is a show I do once a month, where I pick somebody from the community who is clearly as passionate about D&D as the rest of us, and talk about one specific aspect of the game. So I talked with my friend Enrique Bertrand, who's known as the Newbie DM, about what D&D is like for new players. I talked to Sean Mormon, who I mentioned before, about 1 hour D&D adventures. He writes it, and you are going to be on that show on Tuesday.
Oh my God!
We're going to talk about playing D&D full time is kind of how the hell do you do that? Is really the big question. So I'm really looking forward to it. You and I have chatted a little bit in email about it. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, and that's at 8 p.m. EDT, right?
That is correct.
On Tuesday.
8 p.m. Yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern.
And where can we find it? Don't Split the Podcast?
So don't split the podcast.com, maybe?
Twitch.tv/Don't Split the Podcast. I think that's the channel.
Yes.
I can link to on the website. There we go. That's the one.
Don't split the podcast.com is the whole network, and then and so the DM Deep Dive is a specific show. The DM Deep Dive is available both as a podcast and on YouTube and on Twitch, and it's live on Twitch, so it kind of hits all the things. This is me pretending that I'm hip. This is like, hey, I can do the camera thing and talk like these folks. For me, it's 1 hour a month. That's the most I can possibly do. And unlike you, this is the other really embarrassing thing. Alex Basso, who's Rudy Basso's brother, he's the one that manages the chat for me because I can't I can't read the chat and talk to people at the same time. So he tells me what to say.
Oh man,
so it works out really well.
No, I'm looking forward to it. So you can follow the channel there. I'll be hosting, and we'll be streaming before that, and then we'll come over to the channel so we can
awesome.
have a chat there. Fantastic. So other than that, we're gonna head off, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Tomorrow is what day? Monday. Yes. Tomorrow's Monday, which means we've got the Beginners Play D&D at 1 p.m. And what else do I do on Mondays? Oh, a new show starting, Mutant Year Zero, with myself, Mike, Trainsy, Petra, and Josh as well. He's also a person that we play with. That's starting tomorrow, so join us in tomorrow. If you enjoyed today's show, hit that follow button and join us. Here's all my social media in case you want to stalk me around on the internet, follow me home, that kind of thing. We're gonna go cook some food and do some other stuffs. We're gonna finish Line of Duty tonight.
Oh, I'm so excited.
If you guys are watching Line of Duty, it's fucking awesome. You should check
Don't
it out.
read the hashtag. You're gonna spoil it.
Oh, we're gonna spoil hashtag.
Stop.
Oh,
what are you doing?
I nearly spoiled everything. Whoa!
Spoilers.
I clicked on the hashtag because I'm thinking about it, so I click on it. Anyway.
Really? Like, you almost just watched us break up right now.
Oh, no.
My God.
Live breakup on stream. That's tomorrow now.
That's on Thursday. Don't worry though, we're getting back together on Friday.
Oh man!
Spoiler alert.
That's a storyline for the new season. I'll see you guys soon. Valonda, where can we follow you online as well? You got places we can follow you?
You can find me on Twitter at AA_Unola, UNOLA. You can find my Delicate Tones being released tomorrow on our podcast, Adventurers Anonymous. Little small thing, if you guys have heard of it, go check it out. That's the clicky thing. Also, you can see me Friday nights, twitch.tv/bloodthirsty_puppets, where I play a sci-fi game. It's awesome.
Sweet. Alright, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, guys, and go follow these guys' projects. We'll see you guys again tomorrow for more Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, also tomorrow, I'm recording a thing with the lead voice actor of what's his name? Mass Effect Andromeda. He's the voice of Male Rider, and we're doing a special little Mass Effect-y thingy. So I'll be joining an hour. I'll be diving out for an hour, but the stream will be going. I'll be doing other things, then I'll come back. It's complicated. You'll understand when it happens. Don't worry. Point to the doll where I touch you later on. I'll see you guys soon! Until next time. Try not to roll too many net ones. Want to be laughing when you do. Good night, everybody.